This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for, a couple decades. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for, a couple decades.
Let me back up for 1 second before I sort of really dive into the securities aspect of this, because I think it's really important, because there's really two separate cases when we're talking about sort of this recent insider trading, sort of Coinbase related. The first involves the Department of Justice. And that the Department of Justice has brought wire fraud criminal charges against 3 individuals. And really what we're talking about here is an individual who worked at Coinbase and had insider information that he shared with co-conspirators and then ultimately profited from that information, essentially buying the coins knowing that they were going to be listed, or the tokens knowing that they were going to be listed on Coinbase, and then profiting from that information. It doesn't matter whether they were securities or commodities or currency or really anything else. It was the wire fraud, essentially, the trading on information that they had gotten sort of from that insider information that is really the charge here. Okay, there's then sort of interestingly, there's an entirely separate case that's brought by the SEC, also for insider trading, but really that case hinges on, sort of going back to your question, whether or not the tokens that were traded were securities. It's going to come down to a 1940s Supreme Court decision called SEC versus Howie. And you're going to hear a ton about the Howie test, because what the Howie test basically says is, look, something is a security, or what he calls an investment contract, if there is an investment of money in a common enterprise with a reasonable expectation of profit. And this is the important part, derived from the efforts of others. So ultimately, that's where this is all going to come down to. And I think we'll see in the coming months, there is a lot of importance in ultimately how these different assets are categorized.
On that last point about the Howie test, is the burden of proof here on the SEC to say, yes, these tokens are securities? And if so, how difficult is it to show that they indeed are?
Yeah, so the burden would be on the SEC to, in fact, make their case. It's ultimately going to come down to, and I think this is what's so important, and to sort of say all of these tokens in one broad sweep are securities, they're going to have to go token by token and prove that based on the issuance of that token, the way that token is handled, and ultimately that it is a security. And again, what Howie says, and what's so interesting about this is you go back to, again, a 1946 Supreme Court case that's interpreting a 1933 statute. Okay, and Howie's an interesting case. It involved orange groves, and basically investors bought a stake in orange groves. And the reason those groves or those investment contracts were considered securities is because a third-party promoter ultimately decided the value by their work. These individuals who were investing were not farmers. They were not, cultivating those fields. And here it's really going to be the same question. Are the investors responsible for profits here? Are the promoters responsible for profits here? And is this, in fact, an investment contract? And it's going to be a challenge to prove, but it's going to be on a case-by-case, in this case, coin-by-coin basis to make that determination. I will say there's sort of one other interesting piece at play here, and that is we're seeing a lot of sort of legislative and regulatory action in this space almost simultaneously. And I think we're going to, over the course of the next, again, it could be months or years, ultimately sort of get some clarity. But until then, quite honestly, we're going to see enforcement action and regulation by the SEC on a case-by-case basis.
Welcome to the Cryptoteacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And we're starting to see how the SEC is going to cut down these 20,000 cryptos. Because if the SEC is telling you that they consider these non-cryptos a security, 90% of the cryptos are securities. So what they're going to do is allow the exchanges to make the moves before they do it. They're not going to go to each individual one. They're letting the exchanges know, hey, these are securities. You better go through the rest of them or we're going to come after you. That's all this comes down to. And we're going to see the exchanges fall in line. Now we have Polygon on CNBC. And we know that second layer to Ethereum fixes a lot of issues that Ethereum has. The same way when we look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin Lightning. But Polygon is building out its own ecosystem. Now we have the Fed rate hike on Wednesday. And now everybody's talking about a recession. The White House is trying to redefine it. Guys, we know we're already in a recession. If Walmart, all these big corporations, Target, Verizon, are winding down their forecasts, they're letting you know that things is about to get bad. They're doing the same thing they did for about a year. Tell us, oh, don't worry about inflation. There's no inflation coming. We are already in a recession. These corporations, starting in 2023 and going forward, you're going to have layoffs across the globe. Guys, they have to destroy this legacy market in order to bring in the fourth industrial revolution. If you watch my first video this afternoon, you know it. They say it out their own mouth. They're about to bring in the robots, algorithms, and drones to replace humanity in the workforce while the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
In this case, Polygon operates a secondary network on top of the Ethereum blockchain to process transactions faster, a lot faster.
Teams like Polygon said, okay, well, there are these limitations that we're already seeing with the network of Ethereum, but we still believe that that is like the core chain or ecosystem we want to build for. And so how can you take, the transaction limits? How can you take the speed? How can you take the cost and really make that lower while still, being part of the same ecosystem?
Ethereum can handle about 15 to 30 transactions per second. Polygon can handle around 65,000 per second. It also promises to cut transaction fees, also known as gas fees. Ethereum gas fees averaged $26 by the end of 2021. Polygon's fees were less than a fraction of a penny at that same time.
Fees are a matter.
White House is out with a blog post titled, "How do economists determine whether the economy is in a recession?" So, is that a coincidence or not so much? Steve Leisman joins us right now with more. What do you think, Steve?
I think it's probably laying the groundwork for a discussion that maybe we have to have on Wednesday. But, Becky, it is a big week for those on Recession Watch, which I guess is almost everybody now, with data that can help determine if we're in one and policy from the Fed that, who knows, may push us into one. This is one heck of a lazy summer week for economics. Take a look. Tuesday, we get new home sales. That's expected to decline. Durable goods has the critical business investment numbers in it. Then the Fed meets 75 basis points expected. Claims expected to stabilize around 250. GDP should eke out a very modest 0.3% increase according to the consensus. Then you have income spending, the Fed's preferred inflation indicator, PCE, on Friday with the employment cost index. All of this comes with that white paper from the White House that Becky was talking about, arguing that we're not in a recession. And Treasury Secretary,
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols? Who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.